This program is intended for informational purposes only and does not contain medical advice. As always, please contact your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding a medical condition. Welcome to Hot and Bothered. I'm your host, Melyssa Ford. This is the space where we get real about sexual health, wellness, relationships, and all of the life-affirming conversations that remind us what it means to live fully and authentically. Nothing's off limits. Everything is on the table. So let's dive in. Today's guest is someone whose voice and presence you've probably seen in some of the most defining moments of our time. Stephanie Elam is an Emmy-nominated journalist and national correspondent for CNN, who's covered everything from natural disasters to social movements. Stories that test the human spirit and reveal our shared resilience. But beyond the headlines and the breaking news, Stephanie brings empathy, grace, and depth to every story she tells. She reminds us that behind every statistic is a heartbeat. I am so excited to sit down with her today and talk about storytelling, humanity, and what it means to stay grounded when the world feels like it is on fire. First of all, being in the space of journalism, being a Black woman, and then you're in Wall Street. I mean, there's literal wolves there. You know what I mean? It's one of the most misogynistic, chauvinistic, male-dominated spaces. And here you are covering this. You did not want to take the easy road in life, did you?
I don't think I ever thought of it that way, to be honest, Melyssa. I know that sounds crazy, but I never thought of it that way. Me going into the world as me, being authentically me, is of benefit to everyone, and it's of benefit for other people who are looking to see themselves represented. There is a reason why freedom of the press is so early in the amendments, right? There's a reason why, because it is foundational to the United States of America.
Has there ever been a story that you've covered that was so heavy that you thought about maybe stepping away? Well, let me acknowledge the elephant in the room for me, is that I am interviewing one of a giant in the journalism industry. So I'm hoping that I'm going to do a good job, but thank God that we're new friends. So.
We're new friends. It's all love. It's all love. And it's just a conversation. And if you approach everything like that, then it's all good. We're learning about each other in a conversation.
We are.
It's just weird that I'm not asking the questions. I'll acknowledge that.
Yeah. And it's so funny that now that I know you, you pop up everywhere. I just happened to be watching How It Really Happened, hosted by Jesse L. Martin.
Yep.
And it was the Kobe interview, episode, I should say. And oh my God, it was breathtaking. It was heartbreaking all over again, even, 5 years later. And there you were doing commentary.
I forgot I did do that.
Yeah.
Going through the play-by-play of what happened that day and how we got to that accident. Yeah. We tend to pop up when you don't expect us. And sometimes maybe when you do expect us, when something's just really a massive story, then you do expect to see everybody. But it's like that for me too. Now that we've gotten to know each other, you pop up for me in places all over the place too. So it's equal opportunity here.
I love that. I love that. And also another story that prior to us meeting, I had seen on CNN. It was you interviewing Sarah Seidner and your dear friend Ananda Lewis. It was back in October of 2024, and they were both going through breast cancer and breast cancer treatment at the time. And it's been 4 months since we lost Ananda, and I really want to know how you're doing.
That's a loaded question. Some days I'm fine. Other days, I just miss her so much. And if you ask me, while I'm in the middle of the grind, I can just plow through it. If I'm busy momming, if I'm busy, doing all the other things that I do besides be a journalist, I can plow through it. But then there's times when I'm like, the only person I want to talk to right now is Ananda. And obviously I can't. But I've become close with her other bestie, closer. So we kind of help each other through it and with our children. and her son, who we, get together with too. So some of those days I'm able to feel the strength in the loving world she created that still exists, even though she's gone.
Yeah.
And other days I just feel like it's just a massive vacuum in my life to not have her here anymore. So it depends on when you ask me on how I'm doing. I miss her tremendously. And, I've known her since I was 17. So the idea of like however long I live without her is bizarre. But I'm forever grateful to her for being so willing when I asked her and I asked Sarah, like, hey, you guys, let's have a conversation about this, that neither one of them hesitated. They both were like, yeah, let's do this. Let's talk about it. Let's educate people. Let's let people know what this is about. And I think that is a massive part of her legacy. I've said that several times, that she has spoken about this, and I do believe she's helped save lives. So I'm extremely proud of her.
I thought that interview was so profound, specifically because they had two different approaches to the exact same thing, to the same disease and the same form of the disease, both having breast cancer. One had it in her left breast, the other one had it in her right breast. And it just was so fascinating to watch their personalities on full display. And you as like, the medial point, I want to get into that a little bit later. I want to start a little bit, let's go back in time to your origin story. Who is Stephanie? Did she always want to be a journalist? What was the moment in which you were like, yes, this is what I want to do with my life? Was it a moment where you were like, as a little girl, I want to be a journalist. I want to tell the news. I want to storytell for the world and articulate, complex moments in history and, for the layman. Like, what was it for you?
No.
Okay.
It was not that at all. Don't tell me
you want to be like a ballerina or a rockette, and then you're just like, you fell into journalism.
It wasn't even that at all. I was in high school in Northern California. I grew up in Silicon Valley, and it was time to get ready for college. And I was like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I'm 16 years old. Like, what do I want to do? And I was like, I worked on the school yearbook, and I was like, I like meeting people. I like writing. And I like talking to people. So as I was going through the catalog of what you could major in for Howard University, I only applied to one college. My sister went there. My brother went there. I was like, I'm going there. After going to her graduation, I was like, this is where I belong. And I did. But as I was looking at the majors, I was like, that sounds like something I'd like to do based on my personality. So that is how I chose my major. Just based off of what I enjoyed.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm at the, young age of 48, and I'm still figuring out what I'm good at.
We don't stop figuring out.
I don't think
I'm
we should.
51, and I can tell you there are still things I'm figuring out about life, about myself, also because, like, my body changes, my brain changes, because apparently aging doesn't stop things from changing.
No, not at all.
No one asked for my input on that, because I would have had some notes. But still, like, I find that I picked a major that worked for me, and that is why I'm one of the few people that is still doing what I majored in. So many people are not. They left to go into PR or communications or other things. It's also a tough lifestyle to choose for most people as far as having a family life. So a lot of people also choose to do other things, which I totally respect, because it is very hard on your family life.
Okay, so you chose Howard University. That was a foregone conclusion. Family went there. You were going there from the second you got there. You said, this is home. This is what it is. And you meet Ananda Lewis right before the beginning of your freshman year. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a trip. Well, I don't know if they still do it. I'm assuming they do. To like King's Dominion in Virginia. Right before freshman year starts. So the freshman class gets there a little before school starts. And so we're getting on this bus. She's a group of three. I'm in a group of three. So two people got to sit with other people. And we both kind of thought the other one may be like a little, to themselves, maybe a little stuck up. And then we found out we were both from California. Done. Friends ever since. I was 17. She was 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we sat together on that ride, which takes a little bit to get out to the amusement park. Started talking about the things we had in common, just realized we were just like cool California vibes and just kept in touch. I mean, you have to think about it. You had to be kind of intentional about your friendships back then, because there was no cell phone. There wasn't like, we weren't even in the same majors, right? She was a history major. So we were in different parts of campus. So you had to be intentional about your friendships and staying in touch and, you know, hanging out together and doing all those things. And then as we got older, we got closer, you know, as that happens. She was on the swim team for a little bit with me. We both swam for Howard, and just that process brought us closer together. And then we both, after college, both ended up moving to New York. I moved first, and then she moved after. And she got this little small job with this company called MTV. So she moved to New York for that. But previously, she even changed into her suit for her interview for Teen Summit, which was at BET in DC, in my dorm room before she went. So like, there are very seminal moments, like core memories that I have that changed the game for her and made her, you know, on her path to becoming the iconic individual she became. Even though, you know, that wasn't necessarily a goal for her, but just Ananda being Ananda, she became that.
Yeah, she did. I have my own memories, core memories of moving to New York, probably in and around the same age as the two of you. I was around 21, 22 years old. And New York is a character in and of its own. I call it like a boyfriend. You know, it was very much like like an intimate relationship that you have with the city. I think that at that particular time in your life. Would you agree?
I'm thinking about that. As a boyfriend, not always. Sometimes I felt like New York City, I lived there for 16 years, but it was like a formidable foe.
Yeah. I mean,
a teacher, definitely a teacher in some ways, like learning how to ride the subway, and I don't mean where does it go? I mean, literally learning how to negotiate other people touching you on the subway and how you had to protect yourself. All of that stuff as a 21-year-old from California where I did not get on the subway was in and of itself its own lesson. But I will say this, I feel like I conquered New York.
Yeah.
So it taught me a lot, and I think it made me a more worldly person. So I'm always grateful for the time that I spent there.
Yeah, it's very much the old cliche of you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. It's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, when I moved from Canada, most Canadian girls were either moving to New York or they were moving to LA. And I thought to myself, I was like, I can't go to LA just yet. I got to conquer this monster.
So you knew that. Beast. You yourself knew you needed to do this first.
There was also the close proximity. Yeah. There was also, you know, only being an hour away from Toronto by plane. So I wasn't going that far from the nest. But it really was far from the nest. Like in just the grand scheme of things. You know, the minute I landed in LaGuardia, I was like, oh, I'm never leaving, you know. But it was very much it felt like the rite of passage. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
Like
for sure.
Shoulder and the grindstone, and just like New York will beat you up. You know,
it will. You know, I have a sadness and a happiness when I think about my time in New York. I don't ever feel the need to move back there. I was there just this past week for less than 24 hours. I know how to negotiate it, how to get around. It's great. But my time in New York is always going to be marked by 9/11. And I worked in World Financial Center. So I ran for my life. I was across the street from the tower when it fell, right? I'm sorry, when it hit. I was at the window when it hit. And so then we had to leave and get out of the way before it fell. So there's this sort of like
before
demarcation in my mind of New York City and the freedom of it, followed up by how everything changed after. And sort of like for my children, I have one child, but I was gonna say for young people, and then she's gonna be like, who are you talking about? Right. But the way children, I think, would look at the pandemic.
Yeah.
If there's a before and after, and how things changed.
Yes, I would agree with that. I had the exact opposite reaction to 9/11 because it marked the 1-year anniversary to the day that I moved to the States.
Oh, wow.
I moved on September 11th, 2000, and the towers came down on September 11th, 2001, and it reinforced my, you know, the idea. I was like, I am never leaving. I don't know why it had that effect.
So what part of town were you in, though?
I was in Brooklyn.
See, I was going to work smelling the remnants of the towers. Yeah. I was taking subway, the ferry around to get around different parts of it. downtown Manhattan, Midtown up were two different cities.
Very much so.
And Brooklyn. I think the outer boroughs were also just different. Still very affected. You guys were still getting the smells, I think, and all that. But I think because I had to go there to continue to work, I think that also impacted me.
It's definitely possible. I was able to find my way into downtown Manhattan maybe about 3 days after it had happened. And it was very much like I Am Legend. That's what it looked like.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it.
There was still the haze.
The haze was there for a very long time.
Yeah, and it was the sun. It was like the sun was red.
Yep.
It was eerie.
Very eerie.
It was very eerie, but it was it was a wow moment. It was a wow moment. So that was your like, okay, I probably will not be living here much longer.
I never wanted to move to New York.
Yeah.
I never had that dream. If anything, you were going to ask me between big cities, I would have picked Los Angeles. But the opportunity out of college came in New York, and I was like, okay, I'm going to move to New York and do this job. I'll be in New York for 2 years. But the job kept getting better. And since the job kept getting better, I kept staying. And I don't know what the catalyst would have been to leave if it wasn't for my ex-husband, like, because his job moved to LA. The job was really good. It was secure, you know, and I had built something. So, I mean, Ananda left. So when she left and moved back to California, I kind of was like, But like on 9/11, I went to her place. I couldn't even get home. I went to her. She took care of me. She was like the one who made sure that I had, you know, a safe place to go. So, you know, these are other things that unite people along the way. But no, I never needed the New York chapter, I didn't think. But looking back on it now, I see how much it benefited me.
How would you say that it shaped you as a journalist, your time in New York?
Well, while I was in New York, I was covering financial news.
Yeah, and that was gonna be my next question, is that you have traversed through your journalism career, you know, starting talking about finance, and then you move towards natural disasters, social injustice.
That's what everyone does, isn't it? No,
I don't think so. I don't think so. But you know, I mean, you could tell me differently.
No, you're right.
But I think that you've had like quite an arc that makes you just that much more impressive. But you've just seen your lens in which you view the world is very, very unique. I'm sure that it is because of, you know, first of all, being in the space of journalism, being a Black woman, and then you're in Wall Street. I mean, there's literal wolves there. You know what I mean? It's one of the most misogynistic, chauvinistic, male-dominated spaces. And here you are covering this, and then you move, you know, into natural disasters and social injustice and being a Black woman. I mean, girl, you did not want to take the easy road in life, did you?
I don't think I ever thought of it that way, to be honest, Melyssa. I know that sounds crazy, but I never thought of it that way. What I will say is that covering financial news, it just so happened that's the job I got out of college, right? Of all these different places, I was looking at jobs to be a copy editor for a newspaper. That's what I was interviewing for. I was the chief copy editor of the school newspaper, The Hilltop at Howard. But I was also a broadcast major. And so I was doing all these different interviews, and I interviewed with this one man who I still remember his name. And at the end of the interview, it was for a newspaper in Tampa. And he said, I'm going to make a bet with you. In 5 years, you will not be in print anymore. You're going to be in television. And I was like, what does he know? 5 years later, I was definitely on camera. He was completely right. And I think the financial news aspect, I could have chosen to move to like, you know, Salem, Oregon was another place where I was interviewing for a job. Now, I didn't get to the point where they offered me jobs, right? But these are places where I interviewed. Yeah. And I had this idea that I was like, oh, I'll move to Salem. I'm a West Coast girl. You know, I can move out there. I'll get a big German Shepherd. I'll have a Jeep. I'll be like Linda Hamilton, showing my age. And I'll just like ride around on it, you know, and I'll like go and cover stories and copy editor by night, right? Or by day. I don't know. I didn't even know. I never went and worked for a newspaper. I never did. So I thought, yeah, sure, I'd be cool with that. And then the opportunity was like, okay, well, do I want to move to Salem or do I want to move to New York City? And I was like, well, do it for a couple of years. Yeah. Just go. 16 years later, I was there and the job kept getting better. And at the end, I was a correspondent with CNN. So it's because I did financial news that got me that training that then when I started working with CNN, I was starting working for CNN-FN, which was their financial news network. And then from there, when they shut down CNN-FN, I stayed in the pool of the CNN contributors, and then they hired me on full time. So that's how that happened. And I still covered financial news during the housing bubble. Throughout that time, I was going down to the stock exchanges. I was reporting from the floor. You were right. The very first time I walked onto the floor of the stock exchange, I had read the instructions on how everyone was supposed to dress. I mean, I'm not a small woman. I can't hide certain things too well. I've gotten better at it perhaps, but I'm not. So I walked on the floor. I had on a skirt. I had on a sweater. If you had on a skirt and a sweater, you didn't have to wear one of those trader jackets. You know which ones I'm talking about,
yes,
right?
Yes, I do.
And so I walked on. The whole floor started, woo, cheering, hollering, screaming. And there's different levels of traders who are managers on the floor. And one of them came over, you've got to put a jacket on. I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. But it's to manage me so as to manage the floor.
Yeah.
But then after a while, you do it enough, you start to get to know the folks, and guys are cool and you get along with everybody. I made good friends who worked there, but that was my very first entrance. It could be majorly intimidating.
Yeah.
And I did it for a long time.
I lived in FIDI.
Okay.
I lived there for about 6 years. I was there for everybody, I'm sorry, I used an acronym. It's the financial district in Manhattan. But I lived there from 2010 to 2016.
Okay.
And, oh boy, they are an interesting group, the finance guys.
Well, I don't know
the finance crowd.
I don't know if it's just New York, if it's just when the World Trade Center was there. So all the trains would let you off inside of the Trade Center, and then everyone would spear out to all of their different offices. But men would literally allow me to hold the door for them and just roll through.
Oh yeah.
On the subway on making my way to Wall Street when I was majorly pregnant, dudes would literally hold up the newspaper and just act like they didn't see my belly. And so I would just stand there and let my big 9-month belly just hit the newspaper. I was right. Because I actually was really good. I was fine. I didn't need to sit down. I was really, really great. I had a great pregnancy. Yeah. But I just was that is so heathen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that to me kind of encapsulates parts of New York.
They had zero situational awareness because, once the bell rang, everybody would kind of go to their favorite watering hole.
Yes, true.
And usually that was either Delmonico's or Bobby Van's or Capitol Grill or whatever the case was.
There. Yep.
And they would forget that they would be in public and literally be trying to do off the bar. I'm hello, you're in public.
We can see you.
We can see you.
Yeah.
Watch The Wolf of Wall Street. It's extraordinarily accurate. Okay?
It's not all made up. It's not all made up.
But
I will say this. A lot of the guys that worked in the New York Stock Exchange had been there forever and were doing it, trading down there. And once I became cool with them, we were cool. Just that very first day, I do remember being what have I gotten myself into? Yeah. I was still in my 20s at the time. But
yeah.
Good training. It was a good training ground. I call it my Karate Kid era. It was wax on, wax off. And now I still use some of that stuff that I learned then. It helps me now. So at the time, I didn't get it, but it was actually really useful training.
Yeah, I could see that. It's it's being thrown to the wolves. It's very much Daniel in the lion's den.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you some questions that are specific to being a Black woman journalist. Okay, because I got a lot of them.
Okay.
So as a Black woman in journalism, what has it meant to you to navigate spaces where your identity precedes your credentials? Because I feel like you just literally told a story about that. Maybe not necessarily being a Black woman, but just being a woman alone and entering the New York City Stock Exchange.
It's happened in multiple times. I mean, it's happened in Arizona. It's happened in different places where people will assume they know my politics. They will assume they know how I grew up. They will assume that I don't know how to do my job. I had this one woman say something to me well, I just hope that you do like they did at the turn of the century and you're fair and honest about telling the story. And I just looked at her and I said, you look fantastic, because I could not tell that you were alive at the last turning of the century. So I just diffuse it and move on. That's not what I meant. I'm okay, well, cool. But don't talk down to me when I've actually trained to do the job that I do. Many years.
Yeah.
A lot of practice, a lot of watching things over again, a lot of watching people I admire. And I mean all kinds of people. There's all kinds of journalists, different, races, different, the genders. There's a bunch of people that I've admired watching. to get to where I am now. And I think the most important thing is being authentic. I think if you're not, that's what people can see through. So me going into the world as me, being authentically me, is of benefit to everyone, and it's of benefit for other people who are looking to see themselves represented in these roles.
Taking what that woman said to you and the assumptions that she made just through the callousness of her comment / question, whatever she was even saying to you, how do you maintain that reporter objectivity when you also are faced with confronting like your own lived experience?
Again, I don't think of it that way. I think it's just, I know that for me to escalate that situation isn't going to benefit the ultimate target. And the ultimate target is to tell the story and do what I need to do. So there's always going to be noise on either side. There could also be people who come up and want to just, lavish you in compliments, and they're spending so much time talking about how much they love you, but you're really trying to do a job. That can also be distracting me from the actual goal. So I think the more you do it, the easier it gets. And there are some times where you don't handle it the best, that I'm still human. But for the most part, yeah, you try to go in and you go, that's noise. That's noise. It's very nice, or that's very, rude, whatever the case may be. But it doesn't need to distract from my ultimate objective, which is to tell the story, whatever the story that I am there to do, whatever I'm trying to tell. And so I try to just kind of like compartmentalize that, move along, and then focus on the task at hand.
Speaking of telling the story, has there ever been a time where you deduced, like maybe you're in the newsroom or something like that, where a story was, the angle of the story was told because you were the person in the room, like the Black woman in the room? Like I have the question written. Has there ever been a moment where you felt like your presence in a newsroom changed the way a story was told, or even which stories got told?
For sure. That's why diverse newsrooms matter. We need people from different racial backgrounds. We need people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, right? I might have more in common with a white guy who grew up in Saratoga, California, like I did, for a certain particular kind of story than somebody else would, right? So you need people to have these different life stories because it brings a level of vision, it brings a level of compassion. That's the beauty of journalism, right? And there may be some stories someone may feel more comfortable telling me than they do somebody else, And also just geographically, if you have a newsroom that is made up of people that are only from the coast, that's not going to benefit when you're trying to tell a story from Kansas, if you're trying to tell a story from Utah, right? Having a news team that is made up of people who've come here from these disparate backgrounds is actually beautiful. That's the joy. And by definition, journalists are learners. We want to constantly keep learning. So why not have an entire, collaboration of people who've come up seeing different things? I don't see how anyone could see that as a negative.
Well, this current administration doesn't seem to like diversity, equity, and inclusion very much. I mean, you've been monitoring the landscape of journalism, et cetera, for the last 20 years, and what it looks like the First Amendment is on the chopping block right now. It's scary times. Would you agree?
I would say that there is a reason why freedom of the press is so early in the amendments, right? There's a reason why, because it is foundational to the United States of America. And I think there are times where it may get challenged, but I believe in the America that finds its way back.
That's optimistic.
That's what, but people are saying, I've heard people say this is the worst that it's ever been. And I would argue in the history of the United States of America, it is not. I do think there have been times that freedom of the press has been challenged, but I do believe that it is possible for that pendulum to keep swinging, is what I'm saying.
It looks a little bit more shaky from, I feel like, the average layperson, especially when we watched people who we've come to look forward to giving their opinions and just listening to their platforms. They've been trusted, sources like Don Lemon, like Joy-Ann Reid. We've watched them lose their platforms, but then take up, the digital storytelling space, and they are epic. It almost feels like they're unencumbered.
I think that's the perfect word.
Yeah. Because of sponsors, advertisers, whomever was, kind of kept them from being able to express their fully articulated opinions. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on their transition?
I'm thrilled for them.
Yeah.
Listen, the entire media landscape is changing. How people are consuming news is changing. It's a time that we don't really know exactly what news will look like in 10 years from now, mm-hmm. right? But people are out there finding a way to still be journalists, but without being worried about what someone may be telling them to say or not say, or where they fit or where they don't fit within an organization. Don looks pretty doggone happy to me, right?
He does.
So the landscape will continue to evolve, and everyone is figuring it out. The thing is, both of those people you just mentioned, Joy and Don, have massive followings. Mm-hmm. They did when they were in network news, and many of those people have followed them to where they are now. Everything is changing. I think the fact that they are finding their way in this new world, the way that it is phenomenal. It is fantastic. The craft of journalism is not going to die. And I think you're seeing that with the lives of some very prominent journalists going on to finding their own platforms. And I think that's good. I'm always going to root for the existence of quality journalism. I'm always going to root for people hearing from, the average person on the street, what they are feeling, what they are dealing with, what is their experience. That's what we need to know. And if you don't have that, then we are going into a place that is going to further divide the haves from the have-nots because we haven't laid out what the rest of, in this case, the country is dealing with. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I follow both of them, and I'll go into Dawn's comments and then I'll go into Joy-Ann's comments. And there's oftentimes a lot of difference in how they're received and how the information that they're, disseminating, they're received. And I feel like when it comes to women, a lot of times women of color, there is this unspoken expectation that we be not only neutral, but magical.
Oh, that is part of our job description. Mm-hmm. Be magical. Mm-hmm. That actually, I'm not even really joking about it.
On the contract, there's a clause like 1B, be magical all the time.
All the time. But the thing about it is that I
push back on that impossible standard, please.
The thing about it is that comments are just a cesspool of shadiness for the most part.
True.
Let's just start there. And if they don't understand something about you, then all of that is going to play out and other people are going to jump in and say the same sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So you see how I've kind of cut out this super loving comments and also the super negative comments is because I feel like they kind of cancel each other out to what really is happening. What you do know, though, is that people are tuning in. Mm-hmm. These two people, Joy and Don, have thick skin. They've gotten it all. They've heard it all. People are still tuning in to hear what they have to say. Mm-hmm. They're aware of the platform that they have. Now, for me going into a situation, maybe people make assumptions based on the way I look or the color of my skin. How black am I? Those kind of things. I've heard all of that too. Mm-hmm. What I'm really good at doing, though, in the moment, I can not focus on that and focus on what I have to do. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's because I'm the fifth out of 6 kids. You learn there's a lot of noise, how to focus in. It's not for everyone, though. Mm-hmm. And it's also not for everyone at all times of their life. Mm-hmm. There are times that you can better deal with it than in other times. Mm-hmm. And, every single one of these people is still managing a personal life as well. And sometimes that takes precedent and you can't deal with it, right? But there are times when you can also highlight something that needs to be highlighted in a way that nobody else could.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see that opportunity and I feel like it's a viable and, you know, a story that could either teach someone something or it's just something you've never thought about before, I'm going to take that opportunity to try to get that story on the air. It's a lot easier for them. They could just decide,
Yeah,
I'm going to do this,
yeah,
right? But that's part of that perspective
Mm-hmm.
that I can bring and look at a story and be like, this is something that no one's doing that we should go back and highlight.
Has there ever been a story that you have covered that was so heavy on your mind, your spirit, and your soul that you thought about maybe stepping away, retiring, changing direction in career? Has there ever been like a moment where you were like, I don't know if I can continue to do this? And if there was, what was that story?
No. I had to think about it for a second, make sure I was telling you the truth. There's never been a story that has done that. There have been stories that I definitely needed time to like cleanse my brain after.
Tell me.
They're usually mass shootings and talking to children.
Mm-hmm.
Those feel preventable. And the idea of children dealing with that. You know, I spend a lot of time talking to people on the worst days of their life. It's raw. It's new. They don't even know how to process it yet. There's no therapy yet. It's just happened. And parents, talking to parents after they've lost their child who, you know, they send someone to school and then they don't come home. Those stories weigh on me in a way that they didn't weigh on me before I became a mom. It's different now to imagine, you know, child going off to school and not coming home. Those are some of the hardest stories to cover. But at the same time, I lean into my humanity for those stories.
Is that the effect that motherhood had on you? It increased your sense of empathy, humanity. Not to say that you didn't already have that, but I mean...
I think part of the thing is I wasn't a mom while I was covering financial news.
Mm-hmm.
So the change, you know, I met my ex-husband and we had our daughter right about the same time that I left financial news and went into, you know, general assignment. So the timing kind of decided that naturally. But I think what makes journalists good journalists
Mm-hmm.
is leading with your humanity. The moment that I can't talk to somebody and understand how awful this day is the day I don't need to do this job anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? The reason why we want to talk to them is because of the human experience and this particularly American problem of these mass shootings, of children being killed in places that they should be safe. So if I'm not going to talk to them with some heart, then why bother?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing anyone a service in that moment. It's awful.
What is that approach like? I mean, you're about to talk to somebody who's having the absolute, it's the worst day of their life, and it's probably not going to get better for a long time in the case of somebody who has lost a child who they sent off to school and they're never going to return. What does that approach look like?
Apologetic. Asking them if they want to tell us about their loved one. Apologizing for it. Patience. You don't rush anybody in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there are moments when like someone will come out and like all of the media will come around them and they just kind of do it all at once. It's very different. It's not always the same.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have something set up with them. And, you know, there have been times where I've been talking to this one man in particular, I remember, and he was feeling guilty because he didn't go with his cousin that day. And this was at the Gilroy Garlic Festival in Northern California. And he was just beating himself up over it. And I just remember saying to him, it's not your fault. You didn't do this. Like I felt like he was teetering on like really, really deeply blaming himself. Now, he probably still did after I talked to him, but I just felt the need in that moment to just say it because he was he was beating himself up already. And I think that was the day after or 2 days after maybe. That
Forlorn.
It was really, and the look on his face, it's one of those faces that I can completely remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Ashen, just 1,000-yard stare.
They're just operating on automatic pilot because it's just too hard. Like, I mean, I think even people listening to talking about this right now, for them, it's too hard to listen to. Some people just don't want to deal with that. But it's not that I look forward to those conversations, but I realize that they're necessary. And it also, for some of them, they want to honor their loved one that they lost by talking about them.
So I want to go back to talking about your friendship with Ananda, just because I was so struck by so many elements of that story. Your combined friendship with her and Sarah. On Hot and Bothered, there's an overarching theme that comes from a lot of my episodes, and it's about the bonds that we form as friends, as women, and our friendships, and how sometimes they are the closest bonds to us. I mean, husbands be damned. I'm sorry, but statistically, we're gonna outlive you, so we gotta, keep our circle tight. You know what I mean?
Well, and also I just think there's a lot of things that like best friends know that maybe
the husband will never know.
Yeah, or the sisters and brothers don't know. Just there's a special space for the best friends.
Yeah. We are at that age, unfortunately, where not only are we becoming our parents' caretakers or losing our parents, we're now losing our friends, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't like this part.
I hate this part. It's shocking because, I mean, for myself, I still remember being 5. I still remember being 9. I still remember being a teenager.
Totally.
I viscerally, I still have these feelings and these memories. And so to look around and realize that I'm a year and a month away from my 50th birthday, I'm like, wait, what? And then I have friends who have ailing health, and I'm like, wait, what? We were just like, drinking Mad Dog 2020.
That was a very specific reference. I feel like you actually did drink Mad Dog 2020. That was a very specific reference.
Everclear, to kind of doing.
You didn't say rum. You said Mad Dog.
I feel like everybody over the age of 45 had a Mad Dog moment in their lives. Everclear, something, Bacardi 151, something that would make, fire shoot out your butt.
Yeah.
Something like that. But just to kind of like look at our friendships and just have to acknowledge, I guess, our sense of fragility, that we're mortal, and at some point we're all going to be called back home. And just to watch the interview with you and Sarah and Ananda, those 38 minutes just really gave you such a snapshot, a visceral take into like what your relationship was like with the two of them. So what was it like watching Sarah go balls to the wall? Wait, what did my doctor say? Oh, I got to get these suckers taken off? No problem. Radiation, give me all the stuff. And then Ananda was like, yeah, nope, not going to do that. I'm going to rock out with my tumor, and I'm going to try to do it the holistic manner and whatever. What was like for you, being their friend and being the observer, watching them go diverging in opposite directions for the treatment of the exact same form of the disease?
It was on brand for both of them, and frustrating AF because you want to help your people as best you can, and you can't help either of them. How do you really help somebody? Like, first of all, Sarah was in New York. Ananda was here. How do you really help them when they have to do this themselves? Yeah. Like, they are the ones who have to go through this. So you feel kind of like a floppy disk. It's like, yeah, at one point you're really helpful, but now it's like you don't really need to be there right now. Floppy disk was the most random thing to come out my mouth.
We have
that
to give context to our younger audience.
I know, that was so
sorry.
random. Every now and then I age myself to like the nth degree.
I was
floppy
like,
disk.
I know what that means, but sorry, under 35.
Sorry.
I can't even talk.
That was random. Like, I don't even know where it came from.
Google a picture of it.
I don't even own one anymore. I've purged. That was pathetically old. But yeah, but like you feel helpless in the moment.
Yeah.
Also because for a lot of it, Ananda was doing really well, you know, and I would see her, she'd be normal. Like you heard me say in the podcast that we did for CNN, it's just, she was so diligent. When she made up her mind she was going to do something, she'd do it.
Yeah. So and the note-taking. Copious notes about everything.
Bringing her bag of food when we did family gatherings and doing things with our kids together. You know, it was like, if someone is going to follow the program, it was Ananda, right? So that's why part of me was like, okay, if you're going to do this, because can I tell you who would not have? I would not have ever been able to like, and now I can only eat this at this time of day, plus 3 of these and 4 of those, and fail.
Yeah.
I know me.
I understand.
Run me to chemotherapy and radiation, right? Like I know what I would have had to do, and I know what I would have done, right? But you've got to love your friends where they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am not living her life. She's not living mine. We had very different approaches to things in some little windows, but we didn't let it get into the way of how we loved each other and how we showed up for each other. That always remained. And yeah, did I want her to go and get traditional treatment? Heck yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my call. And I've seen some people pushing back on this idea that she was at peace with it. She was at peace with her decision. She did not regret her decision.
Okay.
And people want that to not be true. But I dare say, find your way to that time in your life when you know that you're approaching death and see what you feel. But I can tell you, she knew that this could be an option. We talked about it. She was okay with it. I would not have been, but that's her journey.
There were so many things about that interview that were just so poignant. First of all, how openly you all talked about mortality. More so you and Ananda. How openly you talked about your own sense of mortality and how you expressed that you don't shy away from conversations about death, which I think I
think
love.
about death every day. I think about my death every day. What do people have to do when I die?
Yeah.
What are they going to have to get in order? Do I have a trust? Do I have my child protected? I am divorced. I need to make sure my child is fine. He is a good man. He's a great dad. But I want to make sure from my side of her lineage that Simone is protected, right? It's not about him. It's about what I need to do as a mom. So I think about my death literally, and I know people think I'm exaggerating. I am not. I am not.
I believe you.
Every day. But it's also probably because of my job.
Yeah.
I think about it every day, but it does not stop me.
It probably makes you more joyful.
Maybe.
Because
I'm a pretty optimistic person.
Yeah, but you can't enjoy the euphoric highs of life without having experienced the abysmal lows.
It's true.
You know, that's just the way that life is. And so that was a very poignant moment for me, just because I really want to normalize conversations around death and mortality for the exact same reasons that you do. Because first of all, we're on borrowed time. There's that. And 2, if you have families, you want to tie up the business of death so that they are left to just mourn you and not have to worry about probate and estate and all this other stuff
Absolutely
that gets
not.
in the way.
That's my failure if I were to allow that happen.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. I just finished listening to this book called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. Oh my gosh, I loved that book.
I'm literally about to get that on Audible right now.
It's a very quick book. It's like 2.5 hours long, and I love it. But like, think about, and obviously I just went through this a bit because I helped partially of wrapping up the end of Ananda's, where she was living, her home, and taking everything out and getting rid of it and all of that. Somebody has to do that.
Yeah. I have a friend doing that right now for Diane Martel, the amazing filmmaker and video director who just passed away from breast cancer at the age of 63. One of her best friends is one of my best friends, and she has to go through the whole business of death. And it's gut wrenching. It's really gut wrenching. So that's a whole other arm of conversation that you and I can talk about endlessly. But another powerful exchange between Ananda and Sarah was the discussion about pain and their tolerance level for pain. And
they're both pretty mighty on that one.
Yeah, but it made me think about, did that strength come from within just because that's just how those two humans were made up? Or does part of it stem from like a deeper sense of conditioning of being Black women and always having to be strong? So we internalize that idea of strength, and maybe it helps to increase that sense of tolerance. I would like to know what it feels like to be like a lily white girl and just be fragile and everybody just want to do everything for me.
That is really interesting because you're swirl.
I am, but the way that
your whole life though, you knew that you were Black, not white. How does that work? Because it's interesting to me to hear you say that because you're swirl.
Because
which is a friend of just to clarify, a very close friend of mine. He is biracial and he always describes himself as swirl. So I've adopted that word. So just so you know, that it came from a biracial friend of mine. Yeah. No. So he's always like, I'm swirl. Yeah. So I say it because I actually think it's a very loving word.
We do say that.
Yes.
In reference to ourselves. And I feel more like my identity lends more towards Black, having lived in America.
Okay.
When I lived in Canada, I wasn't forced to have to define myself in any way, shape, or form. Being biracial was the identity.
Got it.
Because it's just it's liberal out there. There's just so many of us, and it's just, I don't know. It wasn't until I came to the States that there was just like this, a line had to be drawn in the sand as to which identity I more associated myself with. And so I just, in reference, I'm a Black woman. That's just, it just makes it easier to get to the point of the conversation. Yeah.
It's also how you feel, how you identify. Yeah. I think for both of these women, it's who they are. They're just strong people. But how they got there, did life knock some curves in their life that made them get stronger? Yeah, I'm going to say for both of them. There are chances that could happen. But that would be a good question. Obviously can't ask Nanda anymore, but it's a good question to ask Sarah. I've never asked that question. I've never thought about it. I just know that they are some of the most gentle humans I know, but also some of the fiercest. Yeah. And that's what makes them magical. Yeah. Back to our other word.
Yeah. So you've had, Ananda was one of your best friends, so you had a lot of, profound conversations with her. And she was confronted with the same diagnosis and treatment option that Sarah was, which was double mastectomy. Sarah said, you take these suckers right now.
She did.
Ananda did not make that decision.
Nope.
Let me ask you this, and forgive me ahead of time, because I don't know how this is going to sound. I just have to ask, because I think that as a woman, a lot of our identity is ensconced in our physicality, our identity of being a woman and womanhood, being ensconced in our reproductive system and also our breasts. Do you feel like one of the reasons why she chose not to get the double mastectomy might have had something to do with that loss of a sense of womanhood and identity, and maybe a little bit of vanity? Because she was.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the answer to that question. I know it's possible. I know she took issue with the idea of poisoning herself.
Okay.
She really had an issue with the idea of poisoning herself. I would say, though, it's hard to not look at the process of going through chemotherapy, radiation, losing your hair, looking sallow as you make your way through this, all of the things, the the path to reconstruction. There's some disfigurement that goes in there, the tumor, all of those things. To think that you wouldn't think about your appearance for anyone, I think would be shocking. So I'm sure that's part of it, but I never actually specifically asked her that question. Did I think about it? Yes. Did I ask it? No. And you want to know why?
Why?
It didn't matter. I was going to support her either way. And so I said, ultimately for me, it was something that I didn't need to know. Because sometimes when you're a friend and a journalist, you have to remind yourself to turn off your journalism hat and just be a friend.
Yeah.
And so I would consciously sometimes tell myself, just be here. That's it. And so I never specifically asked. I know that the one thing that she did talk about was the poisoning. She just really had a problem with the idea of putting poison in your body to kill off something inside it.
She was also extremely, she'd never had a mammogram before finding, doing the self-testing.
She would have changed that though at the end. She realized that she could have done better.
Yeah.
And then she was saying, she realized that like radiation was her fear, and she realized how minimal that was compared to what she ended up having to do with it.
We put phones up to our brains every single day. The radiation from that,
So
microwaves.
she doesn't do that.
Well,
no,
sure.
This is my point.
Yeah.
This is how crazy she was about this, is that she would always use a cable because she didn't want to put the phone. So she, to her credit, she was consistent.
Okay.
She was consistent. But still, before she died, she did say, I should have done that. It would have been less amount than what I'm putting my body through now. So, that's what I'm saying. She was so brave to come out and admit like, hey, I could have done things differently here. And you guys go do this too, because it could save your life.
I did think that was extraordinarily brave to just kind of serve herself up on a platter and what she was going through and the missteps in judgment that in hindsight, she felt like she had made trying to tell people, please go about it in a different way than I did. I thought that was extraordinary, and what an incredible end to her legacy, honestly.
It is. And people still tell me, I got a mammogram because of that conversation.
Good.
I had been putting it off. I went back and I decided to go back. They had found something one time. It scared me. I went back and got the follow-up. People still tell Sarah that.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that Ananda and Sarah, by agreeing to have that conversation with me, saved lives. Because loved ones went to the people they love and said, hey, when's the last time you got a mammogram? They carried that message to other people and pollinated the idea in other people to go ahead and get your testing done. I'm so proud of them for that. And they could have just been like, Steph, no, I don't want to do that. Both of them immediately, yes.
Yeah. Every single year I get a mammogram. I've been getting them since I was 40. Like that's apparently the time in which we're supposed to start the screening. So I'm diligent about that. And I've had, a couple of them come back saying, oh, well, we saw something here. And I'm just like, oh my God, please, Jesus, walk with me.
It's the most unnerving feeling.
It is. And then it requires a little bit more screening. So then that's when they pull out like the ultrasound. I'm like, just do that. Why am I getting my boobs smashed in this archaic thing?
If
when
we
you
could just go to ultrasound.
Can we just do it that way? I don't understand. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm lying, but it's fine.
It's a very bizarre experience, but nothing is more nerve-wracking than them saying, we need to look at this a little bit closer. And that happened to me one time at the very last appointment of the day. And they're like, oh, we're just going to get you an ultrasound. They're like, actually, we can't do that. Can you come back tomorrow morning? That night was nerve-wracking. But I went. But also, the way that they bill for a diagnostic mammogram versus a mammogram, like your annual mammogram, is different. If you just get your regular mammogram, insurance might go ahead and pay for that every year. But if it's something off that looks like it might be off, there could be charges for an individual. For a lot of people, they're not going to go back and get that done. So it's actually making it cost prohibitive, and it's actually keeping people away. And that's something that's definitely got to be fixed in this country.
Yes, and that's why it's imperative that in addition to the mammograms, women are supposed to do some self-checking.
Sarah and Ananda both found theirs by self-checking.
Yeah. And you and Ananda talked about the fact that you had felt her tumor.
I had no idea. Like,
can you describe what that felt like?
Because you cannot mistake it.
Okay.
Like, I thought oh, it's going to be like a soft little, like fleshy little. No, it's hard. It is very, very hard. So like if you were to feel a breast, feel your own breast. Men feel your own breast. Everybody feel your own breast. If you were to feel your own breast and then imagine feeling something like this table, but like with a soft
surface
over it.
Like no edges.
No edges. But then once I touched that, I was like unmistakable. Now, granted, by the time I touched hers, it was pretty large. They could be smaller. But now I understand you're looking for something, not like maybe a cyst, not something, maybe a large pimple. I'm trying to think of things that people would compare it to.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. It was extremely hard. And nothing that you would think if something were that, hard inside your body, it would be a bone. And it was actually like even feeling my kneecap.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that.
Wow.
It was very different.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look for hardness inside of the soft breast tissue.
And of course, I don't know if that's actually the case for everybody. Maybe some of them are softer.
I've heard that.
I just have only touched Ananda's.
Right. Okay. Well,
which probably makes sense. That's a weird sentence, but I've only touched Ananda's boob. I never touched another breast cancer patient's
I feel like at the end of this, I'm going to have to provide some kind of information that leads women towards doing self-exams.
How to do it, yeah.
And where they can, like what they are looking for, what the telltale.
And how far out they go. Because, when the doctor does it, they go into your armpit, like all of that.
Lymph nodes
breast
and whatnot.
Tissue, they go all around it. So it's more than like, just that little circle that we tend to think of.
So after the sit down that you had with both Sarah and Ananda in 2024, fast forward about 8 months later, Ananda's passed away. Sarah's announcing this to the world, and then you appear on the screen, and you're handling it with so much grace and composure, but you are also still suffering from a cold and just the loss and having to talk about it. And you expressed that you'd seen her the day before she passed away. Was anything left unsaid?
I wish I got there earlier. But there was nothing left unsaid, which is a good feeling.
I think that helps with the grieving process.
Yeah.
Knowing that it was all left on the table.
No, we had talked and we had texted back and forth. She's the one who told me that she was dying. She texted me and told me that she was dying. And she told me that we had a couple of months. And then it was like, oh, things are progressing, And then her other bestie is the one who called me like, you need to come today. And so that's when I went to go see her. So when I got there, she was already starting to, transition. So I wish I got there earlier. I wish my daughter had been able to say goodbye. That really upset her that she didn't. It upset my daughter. I wish I could have just had one more of those eye contact conversations where you don't really have to say anything. You could just look at each other and it's like.
It's been a slice.
I miss her voice. I miss her big laugh. I miss the way she loved everyone in her circle. I miss the way she would just answer the phone and say, Stephster. And I don't think I'll ever stop missing that. I miss our traditions. This was the first year that we did our annual fall festival trip with the kids, with her son, but without her. And we laughed a lot, and we did a lot of things that we normally do. And we talked about her. But all of those little things, I don't know how you stop missing it. But I'm thankful that we were always open with each other. That I didn't feel like I didn't say something to her or there's something she didn't say to me. And every now and then I'll go back and read her last few text messages to me, and I'll giggle, and then I'll tear up, because at the end she's telling me goodbye.
Yeah.
Because of the cold, I couldn't get up there. And at the same time, people were protesting in downtown LA, so I was working overnight. There was a confluence of way too much action all at the same time. And me oddly getting sick for a whole week. Like, I was really, like, I could not go out to work, you know, and coming back into this, and people are protesting. Just to put in context how weird that day was. So A died June 11th. June 12th, I went on TV with Sarah. Sarah flew home the night of the 11th, back to New York. She was here, anchoring from here. We agreed that we would do this together. I get up early to go be on the air with her, prepared to go back downtown if there's no protests. I didn't take the day off. Instead, I got sent to the West Side because Secretary Noem was going to be there because she was touring LA. Senator Padilla walked into the room and then got wrestled to the ground. So I was in the room for that. That's the day after Ananda died. And immediately that happened. They're like, we have a reporter on the room, and I was on TV. Just to tell you how weird of a week that was. It's just not something you see normally. You ask me about how I'm able to do what I do. It's because I compartmentalize.
I was about to say, that is the epitome of compartmentalization.
Do that. And even a couple of my colleagues on the East Coast emailed me like, you were having the most bizarre work day ever. And I kept working until her memorial. And then I took that time off. I also didn't want to leave them in a lurch. You know, it's summertime, people are taking time off. I didn't want to leave my bosses in a lurch. And quite honestly, sometimes working is easier than taking the time off. It allows you to process those things and just keep working on what you need to do. And then you can jump back in to your emotional stuff later. You know, that weekend I went to go help deconstruct her life, take down stuff, take things out, you know, some of that I could do, but then, you know, I had to go back to work. And her big sister was really awesome at managing all of that. I feel like I'm sliding away in my chair. I feel like I'm getting lower and lower.
Next time we'll have a phone book.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wait, did they still make those? I don't know.
I know, it's a good question.
I do
our
this.
floppy disk and our phone book are holding hands together, and probably little emojis. But yeah, no, I think the process of getting to where you're okay is different for each person. But for me, being able to just focus on work is in some way an escape. I'm probably not alone in that.
I don't think you are at all.
Yeah.
I don't think you are. On September 7th, I should say, MTV Awards, they celebrated another year of, you know, music and pop culture, but fans were quick to notice that there was no mention of Ananda. And thankfully, Busta Rhymes was able to correct that during his Rock the Bells Visionary Award acceptance, and he dedicated it to her memory. How did that land with you? Both things. The lack of mention from MTV, the network that literally was responsible for her rocket to, you know, skyrocketing to fame, but also her participation is one of the most defining times of that network, not mentioning her at all.
Disappointing, not surprising, was my take on it. I did not watch the show. It's a missed opportunity, if you ask me.
Agreed.
I realize that their viewership is probably a lot younger now, but still, the 90s was kind of the MTV heyday, if you ask me.
It was.
And Ananda was that chick. She was that chick, right?
She was.
So it was a missed opportunity. But here's the thing that I'm learning, Melyssa. This whole idea of legacy. I can't control her legacy, nor would I want to. And so you see how different things are put out there. Different people say different things. I see what people write on my page about her. How people treated her when she was alive is what I go by, is what I remember. And my memory's long. Do I say anything about what people do? No. But I know. But what I also know is that it's not my job to try to control her legacy now as people either honor it or don't. And the reason why I'm even saying this is because there was a time when I would have been super disappointed by how MTV handled that.
Mm-hmm. Well, how apropos that they've shuttered their doors.
It doesn't matter, right?
I know it
No,
doesn't.
but I mean, I guess for me, I had to get to the point of, because otherwise, every little thing, I'm going to worry about how they're honoring it or not honoring it. Are they doing it the way that she would have done it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I know some things that they may not know, right? I'm not in control of it. And it makes me, again, think back to my own mortality and what would I want my legacy to be. She literally was like, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So do as you like.
I like to talk about people's legacy. I think that it's a form of giving people their flowers while they're here.
Yes.
Because you never know what's going to happen. I almost seemingly prophetically said that to Malcolm Jamal Warner.
That's so eerie.
Who you telling? I have yet to even publicly even speak about, having conducted his last interview and the weight that I felt as a result of having done so, and just having asked that question, talking to him about his legacy. And in hindsight, his tragic loss 2 months later, people were like, all these conspiracies and whatnot, like, how did she know? And I'm like, honestly, once you get to a certain age, if it's not on your mind, what are you even thinking about?
Yeah, I don't know that either.
Like, what are you even thinking about? It was the logical question to ask a man who has been in our living rooms since I was 7 years old when I discovered who he was, and he's been in my living room ever since. And he's he navigated the shark infested waters of being a child star. He never had any scandals.
Yep.
He was a beautiful black king. He just seemed to do everything right. And he had a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter.
And was happy.
And was happy and healthy. And all
the
of the
Venn diagram
things.
of Malcolm Jamal Warner's circle and Ananda's circle overlap.
How so?
The people, think about it,
Mm-hmm.
age,
Mm-hmm.
about the same age, being on TV about the same time, they have a lot of friends in common. And so it was like another torpedo.
Yeah.
And I found out before it hit the news. And I knew what it was going to be. I knew he was invited to Ananda's memorial and couldn't be there. That's how close.
Mm.
It's beyond tragic. So to not think about, how could I have this happen and not think about my own mortality? Like it's so
impossible.
Close.
Yeah.
They're both so close. I think I met him like once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know him, but I admired him. And I heard happy things about him.
Lovely man.
Lovely.
Just lovely human.
Ananda and Malcolm were friends, I believe, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But all I know, he was a nice dude. A couple times I met him, I think. I think it was maybe twice in passing. Like, I did not know him.
Right.
But the zeitgeist, though, for people of a certain age, that was a pretty loud bell that was rung. And then you add in like D'Angelo dying, and it's just like all of it together is a lot. And I feel like we're feeling our collective mortality for the Gen X people. It's like this is happening. And not just the famous people, but the people we know in our own lives, our personal lives. I can think of a couple of people from college who have already gone. And it's like, no. Mm-hmm. Or a friend of mine from elementary school who's already gone. That stuff is hitting home in a different way now, And so I think you're not asking that question of Malcolm Jamal Warner because you're like psychic. It's the question that's on our minds.
It is. And
or at least it should be.
Yeah, it is. And so I just wanted to know from him. And my interview with him literally was just me giving him his flowers and saying, thank you. Thank you for being the human that you are. Thank you for being the incredible example of a Black person, a Black man, a Black king, a father and a husband and an actor and a friend. Thank you so much. You deserve all of the accolades and all of the praise. And just just for whatever purpose, like, how would you like your legacy to be on record? That was my question. And he answered it in just the most incredible, almost childlike way. I just want to be remembered as a good person.
Also, sidebar,
Yeah.
I think people underestimate the joy you can find in your 50s.
True. Well, I'm almost there. I'm
You're
looking
close.
forward
You're close.
to it.
But it's almost like there's like this like sort of like gate is going to come down when you turn 50. Like, you know, the old pins of like over the hill and all that kind of stuff. There's true joy to be had in your 50s. And I think he had found that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it even more devastating.
Yeah. Agreed. So back to you and your legacy.
It's funny because you're going to be like, you don't think of it. I don't think of it that way.
Okay.
What I do think of is I want my child to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
I want her to be sure in knowing how much her mom loved her.
Mm-hmm.
I want her to have been given as much information as I could possibly give her to prepare her to embark on a life without me.
Mm-hmm.
I want the thing about legacy is no matter what I want, I'm aware that it's not always in my control. But I'm a family person and I'm very much there for my family. And I think my family would agree with that. I'm from a really big family. I have 3 older brothers, an older sister, and a younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
So family is very important to me, as is the family I've created, meaning my chosen family, which I often call the framily. Like on Instagram, I often will hashtag things framily. And those are very important relationships with me, but for me that, help fuel me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about my career, I would like people to remember that I, as someone who worked hard, was compassionate to my fellow coworkers,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the people that we were interfacing with, interviewing out in the world. It's a funny thing because I'm kind of a social introvert.
I know what that means.
So I really enjoy being out with my people, hanging out, having a good time, but I recharge by being alone. So I spend a lot of time thinking
Mm-hmm.
about what I want and what I need. And I think I'm getting better now about putting these thoughts into some sort of formation in my head in a way that I've never really thought about before.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's really important to me? Is it important to me to give to this organization versus that one? Is it important to me that I parent in a modern way, but with touchstones from older generations?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is yes. Yes, that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
It's finding that balance.
Yeah.
Finding a new way to co-parent
Mm-hmm.
where we're not in disagreement all the time, and I'm not with my ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that are important to my legacy, to me. And making sure that remember to see the value in human connection. That's very much a part of what I do now, and is very much, I hope, a part of my legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can get lost in every device, all the devices that we want to. But to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, to make eye contact with somebody, I fear that we may be losing that. And there is a joy. You could see somebody in the ladies' room, right? And I could not know you, but we could have just seen something outside that door, and I could look at you and have an eye contact conversation with you,
Mm-hmm.
and we will have said 15 sentences.
Yeah, we will.
And we'll laugh and we'll go on a merry way and never have a conversation about it again, right? There's joy in that.
Speaking of joy, and I'm going to leave off on this, Sarah expressed that once she was diagnosed and started going through the treatments and, you know, her life was being altered by this new journey that she had to go on, the one thing that she realized that she had not committed any time to was joy. She worked hard. You know, she had friends. She had a very full life, but she realized that she devoted so little of her time to joy that she didn't even know what it was. And I thought that that was so profound because I myself was confronted with the same thing when my mom was on her deathbed. And I've discovered that my mom's life in all of its simplicity was way more joyful than my supposed big life. And so what that led me to doing is looking to find, where do I find joy? What makes me joyful? Do I even know what joy even means? Give me a dictionary, somebody. What is the definition of joy? How do you find joy? How do you find joy in life right now?
Morning walks. I love going out to walk.
We were on FaceTime, like three-way FaceTime, me, you, and Galen, like while you're on your walk. I said, how far are you walking,
It
girl?
depends. On the weekends, it could be like 5 miles, 6 miles.
Good for you.
It could be if my daughter's with me or not. But the walks were a pathway to sanity when my marriage was ending. It's how I found peace and how I was able to just work through things. It was the walks. So it's something I kept because it's good for me physically, but I like going out before the world is really awake and to be out there. I love it. I've also really have started enjoying audiobooks more. Not started, I guess it's a few years now, probably right before the pandemic. And audiobooks, because my work can be so sad that I'm like, yes, take me to some sci-fi adventure, or sometimes they dovetail, like Octavia Butler wrote this book, Parable of the Sower. I listened to that because I needed the context of the LA wildfires and what she had written, which was eerily like
prophetic, yes,
and then
scary.
The cemetery where she's buried in Altadena didn't burn. Like there's all these little weird things. I can get caught up on that. But my really secret little joy, I love ghost stories. I listen to podcasts about ghost stories because it's so different from my world.
Yeah.
And so it's a good escape for my brain. I love that. But I'm actually pretty good for any kind of adventure. I love travel. Catch me on a plane. Yeah. Let's see where you can take me. What new world can I see? I want to get out there. I want to explore. I like to be outside a lot, in the trees. Sometimes I just crave pine trees. I think that's a Northern California girl in me. And I just want to be out amongst the trees and just like stand quietly and listen to the wind.
No, it's I think that it's.
You're a Canadian. You get this.
Yeah. So I was because I mean, Sequoia National
Yeah.
Park was literally like a religious experience for me.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the first time I got to see a black bear in the wild was at Sequoia National Park. I did a story with a sprained ankle, but I climbed up there to go see this tree that they wanted to show me. I geek out on that. Part of me covering climate change is because I care so much about what we are covering here. Like California is not the same as when I left it. So I want to get out and I want to see it. And I know that sounds crazy, but that brings me joy. And the last thing I'll mention that brings me joy is when my daughter and I find something funny and both of us are cracking up and we sound just alike, then that makes me laugh more. But the sound of her laughter brings me so much joy.
I couldn't think of a more perfect way to end this interview with you, Stephanie. I just couldn't.
Well, thanks for having me, Melyssa.
It was so wonderful. And new friend, I love you so much.
I have really loved getting to know you. This has been just joyous.
It has been
joyous. It has been joyous.
It has been.
Not that all of our conversations have been about joy.
No, not at all.
No.
I mean, like, and now that I know where we are, like on mortality and death, oh my God. Okay.
You can talk about it with me.
I'm going to.
Yes, you can talk about it with me.
Listen, this is gonna be fantastic. I'm so excited. But Stephanie Elam, thank you so much for joining me. Like you are you're a giant in a world that I'm, trying to like ingratiate myself in. So thank you so much.
You're not trying, you're doing it.
Well,
You are actually doing it. And I think words matter. So just to put that out there, you are doing it. And there's a reason why all of these turns in the universe happened when they did and we met when we did, because it's not lost on me all the things that have changed in your life this year. So while my life has been changing, so has yours.
Yes. And I'm blessed to have had you as a witness.
I have seen some things.
Thank
so
you.
I think all of it is not by accident that it's happened that way.
I don't think so at all. I think that it is by grand design. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Of course. And that's it for today's episode of Hot and Bothered. Remember, life is lived in the in-between, and that's usually where it gets the hottest. Until next time. Thank you for tuning into Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Please rate, subscribe, and comment, and share wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This season of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford is hosted, written, and executive produced by me for Forged Path Productions. This season was written and produced by Sebastian Godin, filming and editing done by Freddie Chica, Nicole Benante, the Bassi Group, and Emmanuel Martinez, and executive produced by Rachel DeSalvo.